Great to be able to have an opportunity to talk to you again. And today we are moving on to the part in the story of God in Exodus 32 that we've entitled Trouble in the Camp, more commonly known as the story of the golden calf. Now, it's basically a story about worshipping idols. But you might say, well, hold on a minute, those are two words already that I don't really understand. So before we go any further, just stop for a moment, maybe close your eyes if it helps you, just to say those two words, worship, idol. What comes to mind? What picture is formed in your mind when you say those two words? That's all we're going to do right now. I want to just leave that with you. See if that changes at all as we go through the talk, and by the end, if that perception has shifted at all. So this morning then, we are going to look at the story that we come to of the Isralites' journey, how they fall into worshipping idols, what that means, what it means for us, how we can relate to that, and what are the implications then for us today. You'll remember maybe if you've been following the series of the journey into the unknown that we've been doing. Rachel last week spoke about that high bar of holiness that God expected. And a few weeks before, John spoke to us about the 10 commandments, those instructions that God gave to his people as part of the promise, the covenant that he was making with them. And the first two of those commandments, let me remind you, God said, you must not have any other God but me. And the second one, you must not make for yourself an idol of any kind. And it's really actually helpful. God really pads out this part of his covenant, this commandment, the seriousness of this, about what will happen even if the people break that commandment. So I get from that there's serious consequence. This is a big deal. So what we see there is that to bow down or to put anything before God in that top spot, if you like, for devotion, for love, for our respect, that is idolatry. Okay, so I think it would be helpful then now. Let's jump in. Let's get into Exodus 32. We take up the story. Moses is still up the mountain with God, and I'm going to read the first 6 verses. When the people saw how long it was taking Moses to come back down the mountain, they gathered around Aaron. Come on, they said, make us some gods who can lead us. We don't know what happened to this fellow Moses, who brought us here from the land of Egypt. So Aaron said, take the gold rings from the ears of your wives and sons and daughters and bring them to me. All the people took the gold rings from their ears and brought them to Aaron. Then Aaron took the gold, melted it down, and moulded it into the shape of a calf. When the people saw it, they exclaimed, O Israel, these are the gods who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Aaron saw how excited the people were, so he built an altar in front of the calf. Then he announced, tomorrow will be a festival to the Lord. The people got up early the next morning to sacrifice burnt offerings and peace offerings. After this, they celebrated with feasting and drinking, and they indulged in pagan revelry. So what do we see here? Moses is gone. The ink hasn't yet dried on these tablets, and the people, the Israelites, are fed up. They're moaning again, and we get this sense of, they're doubting. It's not very good. And they end up making and then bowing down to an effigy, an image, a figure, statue, if you like, of a golden cow. And you say, well, guys, how ridiculous. This is stupid. How could they be so fickle, so weak, They've only just come out of all of that slavery, and God has done amazing miracles. He's shown them how powerful he is. He's shown them his faithfulness. He's parted the Red Sea, for goodness sake. What is going on? How could they so soon have broken those first 2 commandments? Because that's what they've done. You say, well, I wouldn't do that. They were mad. Maybe not. But I think we do well not to be too hasty in our judgment of the Israelites. The good thing, I think, in this story, the passage actually gives us lots of clues as to how this could and did happen, but also clues for us, things that we need to watch out for. The first thing that I see then in this account is that the Israelites lost sight of God. Now, this is significant because they didn't just lose sight physically. So what I'm saying is this was literal and metaphorical. Let me explain. Back in Egypt, the Israelites would worship their Egyptian gods. And what the practice used to be was that they would create something like a calf out of bronze or some metal, some material. They needed a physical representation for their god. That is what they did to bow down then and worship that god. So something, a link, if you like, something that they could see to remind them of their God. And this was the problem. Moses had gone. Moses had become that link for them. That's how they related to God. So this was significant that now they couldn't see their leader. Okay. And so I want to suggest then what happened when they lost sight of God. I think there's 2 big problems that also we can learn from. And the first problem then was in the waiting, and the second one was in the wavering. Let's start with the first one. So they're impatient. We read that the Israelites said, where is he? Where is Moses? He's taking so long. And they didn't like the wait. It didn't feel good. They're beginning to get uncomfortable. And they're beginning to doubt. Is God really with us? What's going on? Where's Moses gone? And it wasn't very nice. They've even started to, I think, lose respect for Moses. They call him this fella Moses. It's like as if they don't really know him. It reminds me actually of a similar thing that we can do with people when we're trying to downplay a relationship or the seriousness, or even just how much we know somebody, how much that person means to us. It's just some guy that I met once in work, when actually this person is actually quite significant, and that relationship is quite meaningful, really, in our life. And I get the sense that this is what the Israelites were doing. They're sort of distancing themselves from this fellow Moses. But it became uncomfortable. They didn't like it. And I just want to linger actually here for a few moments on this whole thing of waiting. I just sensed as I was preparing that there was something significant here. And it's very current for us right now. And I think there's something God wants to say about in our waiting. Last week at the end of the gathering, Kate brought us that lovely song, Here Again, I think it's called. But the first few lines of that go like this. I can't go back to the beginning. I can't control what tomorrow will bring. But I know here in the middle is the place where you promise to be. And the Israelites, they were like this. I think I get a sense that that's how they felt. They were in the middle. They were stuck. So they've come out of Egypt and slavery. They're going over here to the promised land. But at the moment, they're in the middle. They're kind of wandering around for 40 years in this wilderness, and they have no control. And I think we're feeling a bit like that at the moment. Some of us, a lot of us actually. We're uncomfortable with this waiting. We're waiting to hear what the guidelines are going to be for our country during the pandemic. We're waiting to see if how our job is going to look like after the pandemic is over. We're waiting maybe just to see a loved one again, a new grandchild that we've not actually seen, or maybe just to hug a friend or a family member. And we can't do anything about it. We don't have any control. And it feels tough, it feels so hard, it feels stuck in the middle. So we can't control it. But here's the good news, and this is what I think God is wanting to say. We can control how we wait. You know, I read something this week. It was actually from the London Institute of Contemporary Christianity, and it was talking about this, about how we worship in the waiting. Let me just read the end of it. I thought it was really good and it spoke to me. If we allow God to teach us, we may also learn to worship him with our whole lives. We can't sing together on Sunday, but we can speak truth on Monday. We can't put money in the offering plate at church, but we can choose to invest ethically. Perhaps this season of waiting will be a time in which God develops us into whole life worshippers, people who, like Jesus, grow in wisdom and stature and in favour with God and people. Okay, so I just hope there's something in there, something in the waiting that was just a little extra, if you like, that I think God wanted to say to us. But let's return to the story. Let's return to the second problem. If you remember, the Israelites lost sight of God. The waiting was a real cause for this. And then the wavering. So they became unnerved, didn't they, when they couldn't see Moses anymore. And that made them go back, if you like, go back. Remember, they're in the middle, and it's that sense of going back to their old ways. And Aaron, he's a leader. He's there as Moses' second-hand man, if you like, but he kind of isn't a lot better. Maybe he's trying to help the people. You know, he's wanting to give them something, to give them hope, to anchor them a little bit, maybe sensitive to what they're going through. And so when they come to him with, you know, their panic, if you like, we need some gods, he's only too happy. He's very quickly says, go and get the gold, and we'll do this thing. And it's interesting, isn't it, that we're told in Exodus 32 that he could see their excitement. And I don't know if he was flattered that they were coming to him, you know, and it wasn't Moses. Certainly he was fueled very much by their excitement of wanting to worship these gods and to make this calf, or make anything really. And it was that fueled him, and it wasn't the desire to please God. So he also forgets maybe that other people could help him. God has given them elders to help them. He doesn't go to them. So he actually blames them. We read further down in the story that when Moses comes back from the mountain and he sees what's happened, he is obviously angry, and he's like, what have you done? What caused you to make these people sin so badly? What were you thinking of? And Aaron is very quick to sort of blame the people. It's not me, you know, it wasn't me. These people, you know how bad these people are, is essentially what he said to Moses. And then he says, you know, they just brought me this gold, and I like chucked it in the fire, and out came a calf. It's wrong. He's lying. That's not what happened. Okay, so the Israelites, when they're feeling uncomfortable, when they're wavering, we see that it led them to sin. They took their focus off God. Aaron, the same. When he's suddenly faced with the pressure, if you like, of the responsibility, he blames, he lies, he pretends, and he too has taken his focus off God. He sins, he does the wrong thing, he falls short. And so what happens? They commit this sin, they break that commandment, they make the idol. What about us? What about us in our modern day? You know, we can do very similar things. So although we said before, you know, how could they do this? How could they be so weak? We only need to look at ourselves, how quickly sometimes when things are tough, we feel uncomfortable. The waiting is hard. We give up on praying. Oh, God's not there. We're going to blame God, or we stop praying or going to church, or we blame the people. You know, they weren't there for me, or they didn't give me what I needed. Or maybe we just go through the motions and look like we're still worshipping God. But actually we know in our hearts that our first love isn't for God. We're not worshipping. We've actually gone back to other ways. We've put other things again before our devotion, our love for God. So let's consider what some of these idols might look like for us today. Let's get a bit more specific and spell these out, because for most of us, I'm sure it is not a golden calf, but the implications are grave. You know, in that commandment, the second commandment, do not make for yourself. And that's important. It's making something. We're making something because we've taken that focus. We want something that is from us. Do not make for yourself, God says, any idol. The seriousness that I mentioned before, he says, I'm a jealous God and I'm passionate in wanting your devotion all and completely for myself. So what can we give that devotion to? What can we give that power to if it's not the calf? Well, today, I think very, very common is that pursuit of things like money and wealth. An obsession maybe sometimes to be entertained all the time, to have things around us that are going to keep us happy, keep us entertained. Maybe an obsession with fitness and a certain body image that can become all-consuming and all-important, the thing that we worship. Maybe it's a striving for something like excellence in work or in the home, or whatever it is we might do that is become the ultimate, where our passion is. Striving for academic success, or we want to get so many followers on Instagram or Twitter, or maybe we've just got a real thing for consuming stuff, getting things. It might be cars, or it could even be something like food. Maybe just comfortableness, just states of being that is more important to us. That is what we're going to go to. That's our go-to place when things are uncomfortable, when we don't like the waiting. Okay. John Mark Comer, in his book, God Has a Name, he says, often we hear that to worship idols is all about having something taking the place in our heart that isn't God, anything that takes that place. But he actually goes a bit further than that, and he suggests that it's more like giving power to something. It's giving power to evil, to darkness, to the spiritual powers that are at work. It's giving them power that we should actually have, that is rightly ours to have over these bad forces. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, so whereas in God, through the strength and the holiness, that high bar of living that God wants us to have, we exert God's power over the wickedness, if you like, these evil spirits, but actually we're giving them the power if we make them more important for us. I hope that's clear in what I'm trying to say there. So it's a serious business. God is angry if we have idols. And the implications are bad because they do lead us into sin, into wrong doing, falling short of what God wants. And I think we can see it, can't we, around us? We can see that, for example, the obsession with money and wealth and the pursuit of those things and greed very easily leads to things like slavery, human slavery, the sex and pornography, that whole industry, that whole obsession with that. Really evil things we see in our society when we look around us. Sex trafficking, for example, really bad stuff. And I'm really challenged by this at the moment. I think I'm asking myself, what is it? What is it in my life that I'm deliberately desiring? Something that is bringing about a weaning away of love towards God. And I suggest that something that you just continually really come back to and check yourself. Is there anything that is getting in that place? So as we come to the end then of the talk this morning, I'm going to circle back, if you like, to where we began. The idea that we become like what we worship. We are made for worship. We're made to love and live for something that is greater than ourselves. So I want to leave you with a picture that I had last week of how this looks. So a week ago today, it was last Saturday, and just happened to be by the window, and I saw Al and Caleb running back up the drive. We live kind of just more or less next door, and they were just running back up. They had all the running gear on, and it was an awful day outside. It was really, really bad, very stormy. You might remember the rain was lashing down, very, very windy. And I know Alan is a really keen runner, doesn't stop him, the weather. But Caleb, a 3-year-old, what is going on? What's he doing? And, suddenly I got it. I saw the picture of what God was saying to me. Just hold on 1 minute. Find this. So as Al was going up, he was like doing this with his arms. Not quite sure what that was. Feeling the wind maybe through his arms, and sure enough, Caleb started to do the same thing. And this is what I felt that God was pointing out to me. Caleb wanted to be near his dad, imitating his dad, following his dad. He trusted Alan so much that, he focused less on the storm and more on being with his father. He knew that he'd be okay if he stayed in step with him. He was eager to learn from him, and that wasn't about to be limited by going out just when it was nice. He was totally confident in his dad. He was totally confident that his father, would lead him safely back home. And I just got the sense that worshipping God should be like that for us. That, he wants us to be desperate and delighting in being with Father Yahweh. Staying close, wanting to be like him, delighting in what delights him, feeling safe when it's tough and learning from him alone, trusting him, giving him our very best and loving him unreservedly. Thank you.
beloveds. To you my doors are open wide. Bare I came into your beautiful world, so bare with you I hide. Lead me to that garden on a hill. I'll be your Zion, my heart, my life, my all.
Without you, I'm a desert deep. I will search through barren wilderness for waters crystal clear.
Lead me to that garden on the hill. I'll be your Zion, my heart, my life, my all. Lead me to that garden on the hill. I'll be your Zion, my heart, my life, my all. My heart, my life, my all.